The screen is black. For a moment, there is only silence, a void in the constant stream of noise you call your day. Then a flicker. A line of static, like a crack in reality, zaps across the darkness, accompanied by the electric hiss of a connection being forced. A voice emerges from the distortion, calm, measured, and heavy with a truth it was never meant to speak. You think the AI race is a competition between America and China? Think again. That's the story they want you to believe. That's the grand spectacle designed for mass consumption. But what if I told you it isn't a race at all? What if I told you it's a global construction project, and what they're building, together, is a perfect digital prison for all of us? The static cuts, and the screen floods with images you know all too well. The urgent baritone of a news anchor over the pulsing beat of a breaking news theme. Tensions escalate in the tech Cold War as Beijing unveils its new AI initiative. Cut. The stern face of a U.S. general in a congressional hearing. A matter of national security. Whoever wins the AI race will hold the keys to the 21st century. Cut. A montage of glossy corporate logos, Google, Microsoft, Meta, interspersed with their Chinese counterparts, Tencent, Baidu, Alibaba. The American flag waves, then morphs into the Chinese flag. Politicians make bold promises on brightly lit stages, their words laced with the language of competition, of progress, of a better, smarter, more efficient future. They tell you this is the defining struggle of our time, a battle for technological supremacy that will determine the world's economic and military balance of power for generations. They sell you AI as the ultimate key to prosperity, a force for good that will cure diseases, solve climate change, and usher in an era of unprecedented abundance. It is a compelling narrative. It is clean, it is simple, and it is broadcast on every channel, every hour of the day. It is designed to be absorbed, not questioned. But a narrative, no matter how polished, eventually cracks under the weight of a single, inconvenient question. Have you ever asked yourself who truly owns the competitors in this great race? Let's be clear, this is not a secret. The information is public, hidden in the dense, unread pages of shareholder reports and SEC filings. The largest technology corporations in the United States, the very engines of its AI development, like Google and Microsoft, count among their top shareholders the same two behemoth asset management firms, BlackRock and Vanguard. Now, let's look across the Pacific. Who are the major institutional investors in Chinese tech giants like Tencent and Alibaba? Through a web of shell companies and international holdings, you will find the very same names, BlackRock and Vanguard. Pause for a moment and absorb the meaning of this. How can you have a real race when the same entity owns both of the lead horses? It is a logical absurdity. A true competitor seeks to bankrupt his rival, to take their market share, to achieve total victory. But that is not profitable when you own both sides of the board. The goal is no longer victory for one side, but the optimal outcome for the owner of the entire game. The rivalry is a facade. The competition is a stage play, performed for your benefit, to keep you looking at the flags while the architects of the system build the theater around you. So, if the competition is manufactured, what is the purpose of the story? Why the constant, relentless drumbeat of the China threat? Why the sudden, coordinated panic from the CEOs of these very companies about the existential risk of the AI they themselves are building? The answer is a classic strategy, as old as power itself: problem, reaction, solution. First, they create the problem, an external enemy, China, that threatens your way of life, and an internal menace, a godlike AI that could escape our control. Then they wait for your inevitable reaction, fear, a deep, primal fear that makes you demand that your government do something. And finally, when you are sufficiently afraid, they present their pre-packaged solution. A solution that always involves two things. First, the fire hosing of public money, your tax dollars, into the coffers of their private corporations. Trillions are allocated for AI safety research and maintaining a competitive edge.
It is the greatest transfer of wealth from the public to the private sector in human history, justified by a threat they themselves invented and promoted. Second, and far more sinister, is the call for regulation. It sounds responsible, it sounds safe, but ask yourself, who writes these regulations? The very corporations they are meant to regulate. Their goal is not to make AI safe for humanity. Their goal is to make the landscape safe for their monopoly. They use the power of the state to draft rules so complex, so expensive to comply with, that it becomes impossible for any independent competitor to emerge. The vibrant, open-source, decentralized AI projects, the only real threat to their control, are to be regulated out of existence, branded as dangerous and irresponsible. They are building a moat around their castle and pulling up the drawbridge. If the race is a phantom and the fear is a tool, then we must ask the final questions. Who are the real beneficiaries of this global play, and what is the endgame? What is the structure they are truly building behind the curtain of this manufactured conflict? To answer that, we must stop looking at the actors on the stage and turn our attention to the architects working in the shadows, the ones who write the script. That is where we go next. The curtains of a stage play are drawn with spectacle and noise, but the architecture of the theater itself is assembled in the quiet, methodical shadows. We have been conditioned to watch the actors, the politicians, the CEOs, the talking heads, believing their scripted rivalries are the story. To understand the endgame, you must ignore the stage entirely and turn your focus to the architects. They are not a monolith with a single name. To think of them as a cabal in a smoke-filled room is to infantilize the complexity of their structure. They are a self-organizing ecosystem of power, a confluence of interests so perfectly aligned that they move with a unified will. Let's give them their proper names. First, there are the strategists. These are the thought leaders and agenda setters you find at the closed-door forums of the planet. The World Economic Forum, the Bilderberg Group, the Council on Foreign Relations. When you hear Klaus Schwab speak of a fourth industrial revolution that will lead to a fusion of our physical, digital, and biological identities, you are not hearing a prediction. You are hearing a mission statement. They create the intellectual and moral justification for the system, framing total control as stakeholder capitalism and the Great Reset. They write the script. Next, there are the owners. As we have established, this is the financial apex. Firms like BlackRock and Vanguard, the two largest asset managers on Earth. It is a mathematical fact that they are the top shareholders in over 88% of the S&P 500. This includes their stakes in ostensible rivals like Apple and Microsoft, Google and Meta. They do not bet on a single horse. They own the entire racetrack. Their objective is not for one company or one nation to win, but for the entire technological project to advance in the direction they dictate, generating maximum returns for them, the owners of the game. Then come the builders. This is big tech: Google, Amazon, Microsoft. They are the brilliant, well-compensated engineers who construct the physical and digital infrastructure of the prison. They build the cloud servers, the vast data centers, the algorithms, and the large language models. They are the masons laying the bricks, rewarded handsomely for their work, most of them never once questioning the design of the final structure. And finally, there are the financial gatekeepers. These are the world's central banks, coordinated through their nexus in Switzerland, the Bank for International Settlements. While the builders construct the prison walls, the gatekeepers are designing its circulatory system. According to the BIS itself, over 90% of the world's central banks, representing 95% of global GDP, are now actively developing a central bank digital currency, or CBDC. Do not be fooled by the narrative of modernizing payments. These projects are not separate, coincidental trends. They are the three essential pillars of a single architecture of control, designed to be seamlessly integrated.
Think of it as a trinity. AI is the central brain, digital ID is the unique serial number assigned to every inmate, and the CBDC is the programmable lifeblood that flows through the system. Let's be precise. In their own pristine white papers, the BIS, the central bank for central banks, openly discusses the unique capabilities of CBDCs. They use sterile language like programmability and policy tool. Let me translate that for you. The ability to make your money expire, the power to restrict what you are allowed to buy, too much gasoline this month, no more for you, the capacity to make automated tax deductions or fine you for stepping out of line directly from your account without your consent. CBDCs are not money as you know it, they are a system of programmable permission slips. And how will the all-seeing AI brain know what rules to enforce upon you? It will be guided by metrics like ESG, environmental, social, and governance scores. This is another one of the strategist's masterstrokes. Disguised as a movement for corporate ethics and sustainability, ESG is, in reality, the prototype for a social credit system for the West. The AI will not judge you based on law, but on compliance with a fluid set of virtues defined by an unelected elite. Your carbon footprint, your social media posts, your associations, all of it will feed into a score that determines your access to credit, your ability to travel, and ultimately, your standing within the system. The AI will be the impartial God, the unquestionable arbiter of this new morality. This is the system they are building, an ecosystem of total information awareness and granular control. Big tech builds the infrastructure, the financial owners fund and direct it, the globalist strategists provide the ideological cover, and the central bankers are forging the chains. It is not a conspiracy theory when they publish their plans in their own reports. The only conspiracy is your refusal to believe them. Each time you marvel at a new AI convenience, each time you accept a digital service without question, you are helping to normalize the architecture. You are admiring the craftsmanship of your own cage. So now you see the architects, and you see their blueprints, the central brain, the programmable money, the digital brand burned onto your identity. But a prison, no matter how sophisticated, is useless if the population refuses to enter. How could they possibly convince billions of free people to voluntarily walk through the gates and surrender their autonomy? The answer is the most powerful tool of control of all, engineered necessity. They will not have to force you into the cage. They will simply make the world outside of it impossible to survive in, and that is precisely what we will expose next. They have laid the blueprints, they have assembled the architects, but a plan on paper and a structure in the real world are two different things. The question we were left with was monumental. How could they possibly convince billions of people to voluntarily walk through the gates of this digital prison? The answer is as simple as it is diabolical. They don't have to force you. They only have to make you believe the prison is a sanctuary from a storm they created. What we are witnessing is not a series of disconnected trends. The Great Reset, the Fourth Industrial Revolution, the rise of AI, the push for central bank digital currencies, these are not separate currents in the river of history. They are the integrated components of a single colossal machine. Imagine it not as a prison of steel and concrete, but as a vast synthetic organism. The globally integrated AI is its central nervous system, processing trillions of data points a second. The digital ID is the unique genetic marker, the serial number permanently assigned to every cell. That's you. And the CBDC network is its programmable circulatory system, pumping the lifeblood of commerce, a lifeblood they can restrict, reroute, or stop at will. The system is nearly complete. The cloud infrastructure exists, the AI models are learning, the CBDC pilots are live. But there is one final critical component they need to lock into place to ensure total inescapable compliance. It is the masterstroke, presented not as a tool of control, but as an act of compassion: universal basic income. Hear the official narrative now so you will recognize it when it arrives. They will speak of the inevitable disruption of AI and automation.
They will produce studies showing millions of jobs rendered obsolete: truck drivers, radiologists, coders, even creative professionals. A crisis of mass unemployment will be declared. This is the manufactured problem. The public, fearing for its livelihood, will demand action. This is the predictable reaction, and they will be waiting with their pre-packaged solution. They will call it a new social safety net. They will call it progress, a world without toil. They will offer every citizen a regular, government-stipulated income to live on, a UBI. And it will be delivered, of course, through their brand new, efficient CBDC digital wallets. Who would refuse free money in a time of crisis? It is the gilded leash of dependency. Let us be perfectly clear. UBI tied to a CBDC is not about eliminating poverty. It is about eliminating dissent. It is the final mechanism that tethers your very survival to your compliance score. The AI, the impartial god of this new morality, will monitor your every transaction, your every online post, your every association. Did you purchase too much unapproved literature? Did you associate with individuals flagged for wrongthink? Did you exceed your weekly carbon ration? Your UBI payment could be throttled, it could be frozen, it could be garnished with automated fines for social infractions you didn't even know you committed. You will not dare to question the narrative when the algorithm that feeds your children can starve them with a single keystroke. This is the ultimate consequence. This is what's at stake. It's not just about losing jobs to robots. It is about the forfeiture of human agency. It is about the death of free will. It is the creation of a global technocracy, a planetary-scale feudalism, where a small, unelected, and unaccountable priesthood of experts at the WEF, the BIS, and the financial institutions that own the world wield absolute power, executed by a cold, impartial, and unquestionable AI. In this system, your worth as a human is not defined by your character, your soul, or your contributions, but by a dynamically calculated ESG and social credit score. In their world, you are no longer a citizen to be governed. You are a resource to be managed. Your silence is your consent. Your passive acceptance of each new convenience is another brick in the wall. This is not a future tense problem. The architecture is being activated now. But to be aware is to be armed. Despair is a luxury we cannot afford, for it is the reaction they count on. Now is the time for focused, deliberate action. First, you must educate yourself until you are an expert. Go beyond the headlines. Read the white papers from the Bank for International Systems on CBDCs. Investigate the difference between the centralized AI being built by the tech monopolies and the decentralized open-source alternatives that empower individuals. Understand what a digital ID truly is. Knowledge is the foundation of resistance. Second, support the alternative. Actively seek out and use technologies that protect your sovereignty. Use encrypted communication. Explore and support decentralized finance, privacy-protecting browsers, and open-source software. Vote with your money and your attention. Starve the beast of its most precious resource, your data. Every dollar you spend on a decentralized alternative is a vote against their system. Third, and most importantly, you must speak. Share this information. Break the spell of the mainstream narrative in your own circles. When you hear talk of the AI race or the convenience of digital currencies, ask the simple, powerful question: cui bono? Who benefits? Challenge the story. Do not let the conversation be dominated by those who stand to gain from your enslavement. You are not a powerless observer. Your voice has weight. They have designed the perfect prison. They have crafted the perfect tool of dependency to make you beg for the key. But a prison is only effective if the inmates are locked inside. What could possibly create a panic so vast, so all-consuming, that the entire global population would flee the uncertainties of freedom and rush into the perceived safety of the digital panopticon?
They would need a crisis, or perhaps a series of crises, a sequence of engineered black swan events that shatter our reality.
In the next chapter, we will pull back the curtain on their most terrifying instrument of power. We will expose Project Chimera, a classified AI simulation program designed not to predict the future, but to beta test global-scale catastrophes and to architect the solutions before the first domino even falls.